Hey guys, I'm really excited to share with you that yesterday I was able to play the first 2 hours of Rise of the Tomb Raider. I want to say thank you to Crystal Dynamics for setting this up for me, and for Eidos Montreal for hosting me, letting me play the game at their studio, and meeting the team. I've made a bunch of notes that I'm going to refer to so I don't forget, and I'm going to share with you my first impressions of the first 2 hours of the game. So first of all, I was able to meet with the producer, the lead level designer, the senior game designer, and the environmental director. And later on in the video, I have some footage of questions I asked when I was at the studio. So like I said, I was able to play for 2 hours. I played on the Xbox One. As you all know, I'm a PC gamer, so I was a little worried about the controller and not being able to get very far in the game because I'd be running around in circles. But the controller was actually very intuitive, and there was on-screen instructions for what buttons to push, of course. So I was able to pick it up really quickly, which was great because I was able to see more of the game, of course. So the first section, I'm not going to give any spoilers about the story or anything like that. But the first section was very snowy. It's in Siberia, and it actually reminded me a lot of Tomb Raider 1 at the beginning of Tomb Raider 1, and even Tomb Raider 2 in the Tibet section. So right away, it felt like some of the classic games, which was really nice. The cutscenes in the game, the ones that I saw so far, were rendered in-game while you were playing. So it was actually very seamless, and I really liked how they did it. Because I remember watching gameplay trailers, I was thinking, well, when are you playing and when are you watching a movie and how much control do you actually have? And it was done very well, very seamless like I said. It played like a movie, but you were also able to interact and not just like quick time events either. So it was very cool how they did that, and it looked really good. So at one point, Laura mentions that she wants to do things alone. And for me, that's a big nod to the classic Lara, because of course she was solo and she always wanted to do things by herself. So that was very cool as well. One big thing that I noticed right away, the rooms and the outdoor environments are really big. They're much bigger than in the Tomb Raider reboot, which is super cool because they're a lot less linear and you can explore a lot more. There's dead ends. I was very excited when I came to a dead end. Those are back, so that's really cool. There's multiple paths through the levels. You can explore them as you want, kind of like an open world-ish, more classic Tomb Raider with big environments. So that is super cool. There's lots of ways to die, and one of my favorite was when I skewered Lara through the neck with a spike. It was totally grotesque, but it was awesome. So lots of fun ways to kill Lara. And swimming is back in the game. The section that I played, it was very brief. It was more of like a mad dash, swimming as fast as you can to get out before she ran out of breath. So I can't comment on the whole game what swimming is like, but at least it is back in the beginning of the game, and I was excited to see what else they did. And also there's, it's not linear either when you're in the water. There's different sections you can go to. So lots of exploring as well. And as far as the dreaded white ledges, and I call them dreaded white ledges because everybody always talks about how we don't like them because they're super obvious. We want to be able to explore ourselves. So the white ledges are still in the game, but they're a lot less prominent than the other games. They blend in more with the environment, especially when it's icy and snowy. So they've toned them down quite a bit, which is nice. Also, textured walls. They're very subtle between which ones are climbable with the pickaxe and which ones are not, which is cool because it gives the player the ability to go up and see, can I climb on this or can I not? And you can explore yourself, so very cool. There's a lot of little details that they've added that I noticed. Lara shivers a lot when she's coming out of the water after one of those mad dash swims that I was talking about. She coughs up water, she squeezes out her hair after getting out of the water, and there was bones floating around in the water, and lots of little details. So attention to detail is really big in this game. One thing, a little story for you. When I was in Siberia, outside in the snow, there's a bunch of deer running around and rabbits and birds, and I shot a deer in the leg. I was going for the head, but I missed. I'm not so good with the controller after all. But I shot him in the leg, and I was expecting him to bleed out, like in other games. You shoot them somewhere and eventually they bleed out. but the deer actually started whimpering and kind of, trying to get away very slowly. It was very sad. I actually felt bad for the deer, and I went after it because I'm like, I need to put this thing out of its misery. But I couldn't find it, and every time I found it, I missed. I'm really bad with the controller for aiming. So after the guys came back in the room after I played, I told them, there's this poor whimpering deer somewhere in the environment that you need to go take care of after. Let's see what else. So when I was talking to the team, they were talking about creating vistas and wow moments in the game. And like the classic games, when you come to a new area, it's super big, there's lots to look at. It really is a wow moment, and you stop to kind of take it all in and look around. And in the 2 hours that I played of Rise of the Tomb Raider, there were definitely a couple of these vista moments. And not only were they nice to look at, the team told me, I had to stop playing at one point, but the team told me that that whole section I was looking at is completely explorable. You can go through all of it. There were bridges, it looked like maybe a town and lots of buildings, and the whole thing you can go explore. So I was really sad that I had to stop playing at that point because I wanted to go down and take a look. So that was really cool. So one thing, tombs in the game. So like the reboot, there are challenge tombs, which are optional. You can play them if you want to. You can skip by them, up to you. And then there's also main tombs that are part of the storyline. Now with the optional tombs, they're not just stuck there for the sake of having tombs in the game to say, yes, it's Tomb Raider, let's stick in some tombs. After talking with the team, they told me all about them and how integrated they are with gameplay. So they're not just stuck on, they're part of the map, they're part of the area. It makes sense that they're there. And when you finish whatever puzzles in there, the reward you get is related to what's going on in that area, which is really cool. So without giving away spoilers, for example, like let's say there was a swampy area and Lara came across a tomb, things in the swampy area would be related to that section and the people there. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But they make sense. There's a lot of depth to them. There's a lot of research that went into all of the tombs. And they're definitely not just stuck there for the sake of having them. One section of the game, the team was really excited for me to see a ship that was in the ice. And you'll see it early on in the game. And they explained to me the whole ship. So you'll see part of the ship, it's sticking out of the ice. And they told me they didn't just make the little pieces that are sticking out. The team actually made the full ship, and then they stuck it into the ice. So they built the whole thing and made sure it was to scale and proper, the masts go where they're supposed to, and then they put it in. So they were very proud of it, and it was really cool to hear sort of the backstory of when it was created and where it was supposed to be in the game and where it ended up for the final product. So that was really cool. One thing that I found annoying would be pop-ups for hints. So if you are coming across a valve or something that you can interact with, there would be an icon telling you that you can interact with it. That's my only complaint, I think. It would be nice to turn those off so you can just explore the room and see, can I interact with this or not? I don't know if you can turn it off. I didn't ask, but that would be my only complaint, that I want to explore the room and see if I can interact with things or not without them telling me. So glow sticks are in the game. They have different color of glow sticks, and they're super cool. They fit the game. They light everything up really well. And one thing I noticed, Lara has a pistol, side pistol, and after you finished using it, she actually holds on to it for a couple of seconds. Like in the classic games, you could run around with your guns out and put them away when you wanted, but this time she actually takes them out, takes the pistol out for a couple of seconds before she switches back to the glow stick or just puts it away. So that's cool too. It's kind of reminiscent of the classic games. So overall, when I was playing, I really did feel like it was a nice mix of classic Tomb Raider and new Tomb Raider. And talking to the team, it was very important for them that they included elements from both. And it's integrated really nicely, and it's a nice nod to the classics. So if you're a longtime fan, you'll pick up on them for sure, and it is greatly appreciated, especially for me. You know, I'm a long-time Tomb Raider fan, so I picked up on a lot of those, and I thought it was really cool. Another thing, you can craft arrows and other items on the fly as you're walking, which is really cool, saves time. And let's see, what else? That is my parrot in the background. He's adding commentary to help me out. So when the team actually came back in the room, I had told them, like, let me play for an hour, come back, and then I'll be able to talk with you guys and ask you questions. And they actually left me for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I didn't even realize till they came back. And they came into the room, and I was like, guys, can I just have another hour? Like, I want to keep playing. But I had to get back to work myself, so unfortunately I had to stop playing there. But I was able to talk with them and interview them, like you'll see in a few minutes. And one thing I wanted to say, Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal work together as a team on Tomb Raider. Jasper, you're kind of loud, baby. So they work together as a team, and they both worked significantly on the game. And it was Crystal's vision, but they worked collaboratively. And another thing that stood out to me right off the bat was how passionate they are. The way they talk about Tomb Raider, they're obviously fans, they've played other games. When I mentioned something is similar to like Tomb Raider 3 or Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, they knew what I was talking about. And the passion for the game and for Lara definitely was very genuine, and it was exciting to talk to them. They obviously love what they're doing, and it really shows in the game as well. And so I guess one of the last things before we cut to the interviews, I'm pretty sad that I couldn't play more and that I have to wait for the PC version to come out, which is a good thing though, because it shows you that I really enjoyed playing the game. And first impressions, I was really impressed with the game. It was a lot of fun. The graphics are gorgeous. The attention to detail is amazing. The dialogue so far, from what I had heard, was really good. The environments were huge, and I really wanted to be able to explore more. And yeah, overall, very positive impression. I can't wait to play it next year when it comes out, and I hope you enjoy the interview.
Hi, my name is Heath Smith. I'm a senior designer on Rise of the Tomb Raider. Eidos Montreal, we worked on some of the main maps and also some of the challenge tombs in Rise of the Tomb Raider. Wow, the biggest challenge was living up to the expectations of the fans, to be honest. We are all fans ourselves, the developers, and we were massive fans of the first game that Crystal Dynamics did. So as co-developers here at Eidos Montreal, we wanted to live up to the work that the team on 9 did, which was astonishing, and keep that spirit, but also push forward and give the fans more of what they want, which is bringing the tombs back into Tomb Raider. So that was our biggest challenge and our main goal. Okay, so yes, definitely we took a lot of inspiration from the classic games, but we wanted to reinterpret those classic moments through the new lens of survival and the new Tomb Raider franchise. So you will see a lot more ancient, undiscovered spaces. This was something that the old games had in spades. If you play the original Tomb Raider, you were the first one to come into these spaces. So we're doing that, but we're grounding them. So you won't see, for example, switches and pressure plates and things disconnected with cameras linking them. You're going to see mechanisms that work, link, so the player can use their own logic and their own eyes and trace these things and figure out how they would work. Yeah. Okay, so the tombs are not only on the optional path this time. We have a lot of, the main story has very big tomb moments that the player will experience. In fact, there's one, almost the first level of the game, I think it's the second level of the game, is what I would consider to be almost old school classic Tomb Raider tomb, where you're raising and lowering the water level. Also, we're going to see a lot more dangerous traps from the old franchise that, if you remember, the old games had like spikes and things trying to kill you all the time. in these tombs, basically making the tombs deadly. We really tried to bring that back as well, so putting the danger back into the tombs. It's not just a cerebral experience. Lara has to survive these ancient spaces as well. So in terms of like the whole tomb experience, I would say that if you just follow the main path, you will definitely have a more old school Tomb Raider experience than you did in the previous game. But on top of that, we've also added more and larger challenge tombs compared to the previous title. I would say that they get more challenging as the game goes on. So the first few, obviously, you need to introduce the player into the new mechanics and the new tools that Lara has at her disposal. I would say that by the end of the game, you're going to face some very challenging tombs. And especially, even on the main path, you might be surprised. You might be, towards the end of the game, you might be a little bit stumped, and which might be a new thing for this reboot of the franchise, but we know that like old school fans, that's what they want. They want some challenging brain teasers. The goal, though, for us was to always make sure that there was a logical solution, and there was always, if you use your observation skills and you've learned and followed the tools that you have in the game, in the environment, and how you can use them, there's always a logical solution. So hopefully not too many looking up on the internet what to do, and more like, aha, I know what to do because I remember what I did before. I'm not sure of the actual, so in terms of your question with the rooms being bigger, they're definitely bigger because this time around we wanted to encourage exploration more and the off-path gameplay. I can't give you an exact meters value, but I can tell you that it was definitely something that we were very aware of when we were creating these spaces, is to make sure that it wasn't just a linear path, but there was always like what we call a fat path, which is always somewhere where you can explore and find collectibles, find relics, because at the heart of Tomb Raider is exploration. It's what separates this franchise from the other franchises. It's going off the beaten path, discovering things yourself, and raiding tombs. So definitely, if you notice that, that's because it's true. We try to create spaces where you might actually come to a dead end once in a while, and you might actually get lost, because half the fun of exploring is getting lost and finding your way. Okay, so the last one, the last game, Tomb Raider 9 as we call it, or Tomb Raider as it was called, the reboot, 2013. The tombs were contextualized in a way that was very much about the storyline that was being told during that game, which is the survivors on Yamatai were living in these spaces and salvaging shipwreck elements and creating devices out of them for survival, because that game was all about Lara's survival. That was the narrative of the story. In this story, what we wanted to do was bring back the concept of the ancient undiscovered spaces, because this is Lara's first journey as a Tomb Raider. She wasn't a Tomb Raider yet in Tomb Raider, believe it or not. That was her journey to become a Tomb Raider. So Tomb Raider, like the role of a Tomb Raider, it's all about cracking open into these places that no one has been before. And as Lara Croft, you're the first one to go there. So the spaces, you'll see that the spaces are a little bit different to the last time. Last time they were lived-in spaces. There was a lot of man-made light sources, and you could tell that people would go in there and paint occult paintings on the wall and do strange rituals and things like that. This time around, it's more about these ancient spaces where we would have natural light coming in and ancient mechanisms that may have lain dormant for a long time. And as a Tomb Raider, you have to come in and reactivate them, fix them, or break them in a way to reach your goal. And that's really, like we talked before about the old school Tomb Raider, that's really at the heart of the old school Tomb Raider, is that fantasy of finding these ancient spaces and cracking them open for the first time. So that's something different. What else we tried to do is we tried to give them a story. Each tomb has a little story, which we tell that story through the various devices we have in the game. So Lara, she's a very experienced archaeologist who'll make observations about things in the environment. It's what we call environmental storytelling. We work very hard to create areas like corpses or little setups and frescoes and things like that, that if the player's observant, they can actually learn about the contextualization of that space through just the environment itself. We also have the diaries, which you can read, and we make sure that there's at least some diaries for each of these spaces, which I don't think were in the previous one. So by reading the diaries, the ancient diaries that the inhabitants of the tomb left, you start to get a picture of what this thing was about. And the final thing we have is different to the last game. If you remember, the reward from the last game was a treasure chest with a relic, which was very much an iconic Tomb Raider reward. We wanted to push a little bit further this time and go more with the philosophy that Lara Croft's greatest reward is knowledge. So what you'll find at the end of the tomb is knowledge in the form of a codex, a Byzantine codex. You've obviously, or you may have heard about the contextualization of our game, which is the Byzantine culture, the ancient Byzantine culture. So in finding that codex, she gains a knowledge, and we will also, that helped us represent a more, I would say, more meaningful gameplay reward for the player, an immediately meaningful gameplay reward. XP, obviously, and relic is cool, but we give them something that this is an ancient knowledge that only Lara Croft is smart enough to understand how she can use that knowledge in a meaningful gameplay way. So, for example, if you enter a tomb which may have been full of archers, then she's going to get an archery skill, which is, of course, perfect for her, but she's the one, because she's smart, she's an archaeologist, she knows ancient languages, she can interpret that knowledge and turn it into an actual skill that she can use. So that's something different to last time. And also we made sure that that skill that you get in that codex at the end of the tomb is related to the contextualization of the tomb itself. So if you enter a tomb which was like a hospital, for example, then the skill you learn there is about healing yourself, because that's the skill they would have had in that place. And we hope that all of that gives players a unique experience each time they play one of these tombs, and they feel that like they're not just side content, which is a repetitious, maybe using ingredients they've seen before. It's something unique that they want to seek out these experiences because they're really deepening their understanding of these micro stories about the history. And also we worked hard to tie them into the main narrative and the story which you will discover when you play the game of our ancient culture and how they came all the way from the Ottoman Empire to the middle of Siberia. So that's what we did. Whoa, the most brutal way Lara can die in the game. I mean, there's always the spikes, but this time, you know, there's underwater. You can swim this time, so you don't want to run out of breath. I can tell you that, that's for sure. And you may have seen a little bear, who is not so little, and although he just wants to make friends with Lara, sometimes his claws come out, and he doesn't make friends. It doesn't end well. I think what we want fans to take away from this game is that Lara's journey is progressing. It's not a repeat of the previous game. She's not back to being a helpless survivor anymore. She is where we left her at the end of the previous game. And we hope that players see that she's on a journey and this journey will continue and that they're excited to see more entries in her adventures.
I'm Martin Pettigrew, and I was the lead artist on Rise of the Tomb Raider, co-lead artist with people like Chris. So the goal when we think about the tomb in Montreal, we wanted to make sure that each tomb, each challenge tomb, would be like unique in terms of visual, unique in terms of color palette, unique in terms of storytelling. So we push a lot to make sure like that all the side tomb has a very artistically would be very different. So for the player, it's always like a surprise to see, oh, that's the theme of the tomb, that's the story of the tomb. So we push a lot on this side. Yeah, lighting for Tomb was a challenge because we didn't want to have like artificial light sources because those are secret, are hidden. So we use a lot of natural light, and sometimes for one of them we use like the light going through the eyes to make a nice visual. Also nice to help the player to see like the path. So we push a lot on the like natural lighting instead of artificial lighting. we tried to because right now the on the Rise of Tomb Raider there's a lot of maps level in the ice or in Siberia with snow, so white ledges was a bit of a challenge. So we tried to make them to blend them more with the environment, so they're not standing out and like, oh, there's a big white ledges like that. In some area we needed to help the player, but like for axe wall, we need to blend them well with the actual like ice wall. So we just play with the tone, with the cracks in the wall to help the player to understand that was a gameplay element.
Sure, so the combat this time, some of the major differences are we have a more guerrilla style combat than in 9. 9 was a guerrilla style combat, but we're adding to it the flavour of Lara becoming like a predator. So, for example, in the first game, the environment, she was the prey, and the environment was trying to kill her, and she was just trying to survive, and that's what you got at the end of the last game. Survivor was born. She survived this horrific experience through killing and through all this stuff. But this one is more about how is her journey to becoming like a predator, like becoming one with the environment. So she's going into this hostile place that she's unfamiliar with, and how does she use her Tomb Raider awesomeness to like become one with nature, the snowy environments, the animals, the bushes, the trees, all of these things you may have read about in the press on the game. You can use all these things to your advantage. You can even rip apart the nature. You can craft out of it. You can rip the leaves off a tree, rip the wood and make arrows out of it. Or you can harvest the mushrooms and make poison arrows out of it. So obviously there's systemic things we wanted to do with crafting and things like modern game tropes, but the theme it's all contextualized around is like Lara using nature, becoming one with nature, no longer being afraid of nature and just trying to survive it, but harnessing it and using it against her enemies. Sure, so again, the first game was a game of survival, so often it was kill or be killed. So Lara is against, insurmountable odds, she's completely inexperienced, and really it's about survival. This game, she's more experienced, she's going in there, she knows what she's there for, she knows what she's doing, what she's trying to find. She's still up against trained mercenaries, but this time we give the player more options to evolve the combat into not just killing. So for example, we have objects around the environment called distraction objects, and like the name suggests, you can use them to reposition the enemies, to take a non-lethal approach. And also we have, as I said, elements of the environment where you can actually bypass sections of combat. So you could see that Lara is pretty good with vertical traversal and going up trees and things like that. So if you're smart, you might see a combat setup and you might actually take a path over the trees and bypass the combat entirely. We want to give the players, and we reward them for that as well. There's an XP that you'll get for being silent, I believe. So each enemy that you skip, you actually get some XP for that. So if you've played, similar games like Dishonored, that really allow the player to choose their playstyle, we're heading in that direction. You can see it here. There's still obviously moments, it's a Tomb Raider game, so there are moments where it's an all-out firefight and Lara's in fight for her survival, because these are integral to the story and the character and the new style of game and the tale we're telling. But more often than not now, you're going to have a lot of options in how you approach combat. For example, with the distraction objects, we even give the player a choice with what they want to do with those. By default, they're a repositioning or distraction tool. But with the crafting system, which is new to this game, it wasn't in the last game, you can craft them into, on the fly, mind you, you can craft them into chaos objects, where you can choose to play that way if you wish. So if you want to play all death, mega death all the time, you can turn a bottle into a Molotov cocktail, or you can turn a can into a shrapnel grenade. So again, always giving the player choice in combat, giving them multiple ways to do things, giving them the environment to use to do a stealthy way if they wish, or giving them all the tools as well, like in the environment and their weapons, to go all out assault if they want. Because we know our players, like the old Tomb Raider, there was a lot of assault. Lara was gunning down hordes of enemies. We know a lot of players want to play that way, but we also know that a lot of players, these days, modern games, we want to make sure that the players can play the way they want. They can play the Lara they want to play and the way they see that character. And some players don't want to shoot everyone. They want to like be a bit more careful. So we try to give them options. Sure, so I think the thing is, like, what we have to remember is Lara, even though she's seeking out this situation, it quickly escalates and it becomes something that she never imagined. She didn't know that there was going to be a paramilitary organization perhaps everywhere she's going. So really in those cases it is kill or be killed. And she knows that if she doesn't do these brutal kills, then someone's, like, if she's not hanging on for dear life. And you can see that in the animations, you know, the way we realize it. It's not Sam Fisher, it's not Assassin's Creed, she's not the cold killer that's not looking at the explosion, you know, she's fighting this guy is fighting for his life and she's taking him down. Because she knows that if she doesn't do it, she lets go of that bow, she's dead. That's the thing. So really the brutality comes from survival. That's the whole point of this reboot, is that, like, if you project yourself into Lara's situation and you went to this place and you really did these things, you would probably be doing the same thing, because you would have to, otherwise these guys would take you out. So, you know, she's not, right now it's her journey, this is Rise of the Tomb Raider, she doesn't yet have years and years of experience, she isn't the hyper-experienced Lara Croft of the original games, where she was too cool for school, wearing the sunglasses, looking away from the explosion. She's heading there, but right now she's still, like, really, you know, fighting for survival. It's a game still about, at its core, the woman versus the wild, the kill or be killed, and the fight for survival. I can't answer that question. This is above my pay grade, but, you know, I think, let's just say, this franchise, what's interesting about Tomb Raider is each time you see a new entry in the franchise, like the latest franchise here, entry, you will see elements of the old games come in, because it is important to create Lara Croft. We're creating Lara Croft. Each game is building towards Lara Croft. So I can't say yes, I can't say no, I guess never say never, but I can guarantee you that Rise of the Tomb Raider, for me personally, in working on it, contains more like old school Tomb Raider fan service than the previous game. It's really, I think, just playing the puzzles, the new combat options, the environments themselves, you can't deny that you can see the direction it's going. So that's all I can say. I can't know about the pistols, to be honest. Sure. So I mean, the guns are very similar to the previous game. This is what she's proficient at. So you're always going to have your bow. This is her iconic weapon. Your pistol is your standard fallback weapon. You have your shotgun for close quarters, and you have your assault rifle for assault, obviously. Multiple enemies if you want to, like, spread fire. Other than that, it's objects, as I said before, objects in the environment, and utilizing opportunities in the environment with your guns. So the guns can become more if you combine them with, like, explosive barrels or any of the, like, lanterns that you can set things on fire, anything like that. That's where they take on a new level. We also have new ammunition that you can craft. So, for example, like explosive shells for the shotgun. Again, giving the player a layer of choice in what they want to do with these resources that they're collecting. And for the bow, because the bow is the star weapon of the game, this is her thing. The bow has a whole bunch of new arrows this time. If you remember, in the last game you had fire arrows, and I think you had a grenade or explosive arrow, and you had the rope arrow. So this time around, it's centered around the crafting system, and we have poison arrows, we have a new type of grenade arrow, and we have another arrow which I'm not going to tell you about, but you'll just have to play the game to find out. But the point is, all of these serve a purpose. So poison arrow, if you want to play in a more stealthy way and you don't want to alert people, but you want to, like, take out a group of guys, you can have a poison gas cloud. It's pretty cool. Then explosive arrows, if you want to play in a chaotic way, obviously you're going to get results with that. But you're always giving the player the options on how they want to play and how they want to spend their resources.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed the interview, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is my parrot Jasper, who was adding commentary in the background, so I'm sorry if you couldn't hear some of what I was saying. If you have any questions, post below the video and I'll do my best to answer. See ya.